Okay, so I did a video not that long ago, and I called it the pod review that almost killed me. And it was about a pepper that I ate that was so hot, it was actually twice as hot as a Reaper would go. And of course, nobody's going to believe me in the hot pepper world. Most of the regular people, you would be like, oh, okay, well, what's the big deal? But it's not my own creation. I actually got a hold of this pepper by accident. What happened was, with this particular variety of pepper, was I ordered seed for the Trinidad Scorpion Sweet, and I pulled a few seeds out, and I started 2 or 3 plants like I normally do, and I grew them out, and I thought it was a Trinidad Scorpion Sweet, and that is not what a Trinidad Scorpion Sweet should taste like or look like. Instead, I'll show you really quickly. I am growing the true version of the Trinidad Scorpion Sweet, which I've isolated. I don't know how this other seed got in there, or even if the person packing the order for me when I ordered the seeds were aware that something like this could have gotten in there. Or even if it was an accident or even intentional to hopefully choke me to death. Who knows what the reason was. But that is the Trinidad Scorpion Sweet. You can see there's a monster pod. Not sure what that is on the bottom. Monster pod, big pods off this plant. Very big, very typical type of phenotype on it. And there's also another version of it which is a little bit different. It's more of a green version of the Trinidad Scorpion Sweet that has very big cup and saucer, typical shape and pheno you should see on this particular variety of peppers. The pheno should look like this. And so one is a white bone version, and the other version next to it is a dark green version. So I have both versions of this particular variety, which I will separate, and I will shoot separate video on those. But that's where I got the seed from for this thing originally. So that is the Trinidad Scorpion Sweet. Let me show you this one. This particular seed that I'm showing you came from this. And this is not a sweet pepper in any way, shape, and form. This pepper is so hot that my windpipe almost closed as I tried to force the juice from that pepper down my throat. And I literally almost choked to death. I couldn't get the mash and the juice that I chewed up from this pepper to go down. As soon as I tried to get it to go down, I belched, I hiccuped, I did this, I did that. It went into my windpipe, went up my nose, and I literally almost died from it. So I decided to save seed from it originally, and that was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago I did it. So I'm figuring, the seeds probably ain't no good anymore, but let's grow it out and see if we can get this plant to produce pods like I did the first time. And that's what you're looking at right there. All right, I can certainly assure you this is not a Moruga. Some people might be, oh, dude, it's a Moruga, man. No, it's not a Moruga. Also, too, I want to point out that this pepper has a very unique feature to it, which most of my other peppers generally don't do, but I do get this on other peppers as well, and I'll point it out as I do my pod reviews if I see it. But this pepper gets what's known as pepper spiking. And as you can see right there, where my thumb is, and I'm moving around, those are very sharp spikes that stick out of the pepper. Now, anytime I usually see that effect on my peppers, I usually need to take very extreme caution eating them because they're usually very, very hot, and they can really hit you in a way that you're just not expecting. So I just wanted to show you my plant that I got growing with this particular pheno. But also, too, that's something really strange out of another seed, because I planted 4 seeds, and in this pot, I think there's only 2 plants that actually lived out of the 4 seeds. And one is like I just showed you. The other one is doing something extremely bizarre. I've never seen a pepper plant do this before. All the leaves on this pepper plant are curled. I know what people are going to say. Oh, dude, that's a lack of calcium, man. That's potassium deficiency. No, it's not, guys. I understand what deficiencies are in plants, and I understand what to, look for in those deficiencies. What I'm talking about here is not a deficiency in this particular plant. I'll show you why I say that. Let me talk a little bit about the variegated plant now. Now, in the variegated plants, you'll always notice that it's different colors. You'll usually get, for example, a light green, a white, and a dark green. And the leaves are usually very shaped very differently. You'll always see cupping on the leaves. You'll see deformities of the leaf, like this one right here. And you'll also see leaves that are regular as well. So it's kind of a blend, but the more you see the albino gene being expressed, usually the more deformity you're going to see in the leaf. That is not a defect. That is not a calcium deficiency in a plant. That is simply the plant profile. That is the genetic profile of the plant. You see how the leaf right here is deformed? That's nothing wrong with the plant. That's the way this plant produces its leaves. Here's one. It's cupping, and it's got real bizarre pulling on it to the left and to the right. You can see the veins on some of these really shoot off to an angle. The lobes are not consistent. One is kind of round, and the other one starts back here, and it goes up that way. You can see there's a lot of inconsistencies with this plant. Okay, you see a lot of rippling in the leaf. You see a lot of curling, gnarling, and that is a typical thing you see with the plants. Now, I can show you a plant that is showing signs of a type of deficiency right here. And you see this right here? This is a type of, not a deficiency, but when you see your leaves on your pepper plant doing something like this and they're curling in, it's not a virus and it's not a disease. That is because the plant can't respirate and transpirate correctly in its current environment. There's not enough airflow in this particular area for this particular type of plant. So you will start to get cupping like this and curling on the leaves. It doesn't mean the plant is diseased. It doesn't mean it's going to die. It just means that the plant can't respirate and transpirate efficiently in its current growing environment. And if I was to take that plant and move it into the middle of my yard where the wind is blowing and the light is good, all those leaves will end up drying and dropping off, and it'll put out a whole ton of new leaves that look nice and fresh like that one. So I understand the difference between the diseases, dysfunctions, and everything else. This plant has been doing this with these curly, gnarly leaves in several locations because I moved this pot around a few times. It's now rooted down below, but at one time I was moving this pot all over the place. And no matter what I do, the leaves keep coming out gnarly on this one. Now, this plant here is in the same pot as the one that's gnarly. So you can't say it's a deficiency because this plant is not showing any forms of deficiency in any way. Yeah, they're getting a little lighter in the leaves because we're already into September and you're starting to see the plant getting ready to shed its leaves and go into a winter state. But as you can see here, all the leaves on this particular variety of plant is actually curling, and it's very strange. I've never really seen a plant do this on its own other than what you see in a variegated plant that I just showed you, for example. All variegated plants, whether it's tomatoes or peppers, will show you a very gnarly leaf shape. It doesn't matter what variegated plant you use, they're all going to give you that effect. This, on the other hand, is not a variegated plant, but I am getting a lot of gnarliness on this particular plant growing next to it. It's getting watered the same, gets fertilizers the same, everything's the same. And yet this one's exhibiting a different behavior. Now, the other thing I noticed with this plant, because I've been looking at it now, and some of the flowers on this plant are doing a very strange thing, and I've never seen a pepper flower actually do this. I've seen tomato flowers do this, but I've never seen a pepper flower do this. And if you look at my pepper flower on this particular plant, you can see all the leaves curl back to the plant, exposing the anthers all the way out, and I've never seen a pepper plant actually do that. I've seen tomato flowers do that, but I've never seen pepper flowers do that. Pepper flowers in general, when they come out and they're opened up and they expose their anthers, they just simply look like this. You see how it doesn't curl all the way back? They do that. This plant is exhibiting a very, very strange behavior, and I am going to have to pursue this to find out what the heck is going on with this thing, because it's something different about it. This could be another mutated form of a, I don't know, similar to like I showed you a video on this plant. And this is called the Candlelight Mutant Pepper. And if you look at the leaves on this, you can see the leaves do not look like pepper leaves in any way. It's a mutated form. I think I shot a video on my theory as to what happened with this particular pepper plant. But it's reproducing itself over and over from the same seed, giving you the same bizarre shape and effect. And my theory is that this isn't a plant that reproduced from flower to pollination. This is an ancient plant's way of reproducing itself by stealing genetics from other species of plants and creating something like this. I'll get into a whole nother video on that. That's how this plant actually came about. It's not an accident. It's just a very ancient form of reproduction in the plant world. When plants went from an algae to an oak tree, for example, they had to do something before they were able to produce pollen and flowers. So that's how I believe this plant actually came to being, because it was found by an accident, and nobody knows how this thing was actually created. It's never been seen or heard before. That's the first time you're seeing it, other than maybe some other videos of other people showing it. But this is another plant that's exhibiting something very similar in behavior, with its gnarly leaves, flowers curling all the way back. We're going to monitor this a little more. If I see more flowers curling back like this, I'm going to be documenting this, because this right here could be the sign of something new. It could be an actual new species being created right before your eyes. And if you got a good eye and you notice those kind of things, you might be able to cultivate this into a real new, design, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to pursue that a little more. And just figured I'd share that with you guys. Once I get fruit off of this thing, I'll show you what the fruits look like, and we'll go from there. But just figured I'd share that, and that's it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, guys. And I'll see you on the next one.